Let's talk a little bit more about bottoms up and top down investing, right? So recall from earlier in the course, top down is basically seeing the forest from the trees, right? So you understand what sector you should invest in. And bottoms up is just looking at one company and doing a lot of due diligence on the company. So we'll talk about examples in the hedge fund industry here. So we already know that top down can be events, right? Like the Olympics. And we know that bottom up can be product specific. Investment themes last much longer than you think. That's always the case. All right. Secular growth themes last longer than you think. And you got to ride these themes for a long time if you can. And so every year, an investment portfolio comes down to one or two good ideas. Everything else is noise. Make sure that your thematic ideas are your best ones. Now, here are some ideas that I thought about putting on in 2008. Some of these I put on, some of them I didn't, but I crystallized it in one page, which you can see there. Okay, so I looked at cyclical companies and technology companies, and the way I managed risk at my hedge fund was I invested in cyclical and tech stocks because there's not a high correlation. So it was a way for me to be able to mitigate or minimize risk. All right, let's look at these in a little bit more detail. So investment themes are crucial. One example I looked at was the ability to use corn, right, for gas products, right? And that was an ag theme. Another one, which I talked about earlier in this course, was China and United Technologies, right? Remember the Otis elevator product, right? And so that went in under infrastructure. And then cyclical on the short side, the home builders, right? So remember, home builders are very cyclical. When the economy is not doing well, they fall off a cliff and vice versa. So that was a short I looked into, particularly Lennar, LEN, and KBH back then. And then I also love the share shift ones, like when Circuit City was going belly up, Best Buy took share, right? You can go long Best Buy and short Circuit City, or just go long Best Buy, right? And there's many examples of this too, like Google and the New York Times over the past decade or so, right? And so I remember Warren Buffett was at a conference once, and we were talking about newspapers, and he put his hand up and asked the panelists, well, if the internet was invented first, right? If the internet was invented first, would we still have newspapers? Anyway, simplistic logic. I loved it. So the share shift one is always a great way to invest. And, I've got a couple more examples. One is Apple with Microsoft. So Apple started taking a lot of market share from Microsoft over the past 10 to 15 years. And so that's a share shift one. I love pair ideas where one company is taking share away from another.